We are back and ready to go with the second semi-final of the day. We are now only 2 matches left until we decide who is our Masters Tour Bucharest champion. I am Raven, and Derek is still here. How did you enjoy that last series, friend?
It was a lot of fun. I'm sad to see Totosh going out. I think he was would have been a great addition to European Grandmasters. We have a lot of very, very well-known players, but I think there are very many European players who show a lot of potential, could have shown that. But at the same time, I think you and I can both agree, Kin is looking strong. He's looking very, very strong right now. Yeah,
and honestly, even though he does have, past results, of course, but even just off this one tournament, not only has he got through the whole Swiss, he's now just churning his way through top 8 as well. So it's looking pretty incredible for him, and I would look forward to seeing him in Grandmasters in the future as well. But for now, let's move on as we have Eddie and DeadDraw coming up for you guys. And you can already see the bands on the screen there, and as you quite rightly brought up before we went live, Druid's banned because it's clearly the best class and the bring for the tournament.
Yeah, it's not something we've seen all too often. I don't 100% agree with you on that assumption.
And by not 100, you mean 0?
Your words, not mine. But I think for DeadDraw, it does make a lot of sense. When you have the Warrior up against Druid, I think it's safe to say now, with Eddie's very greedy build, Baleful Banker thrown in there as well, you're looking at a pretty miserable matchup, all things considered. They will just fatigue you. And the other deck for DeadDraw, a very signature deck that we haven't seen from any other player, I think, here in the top 8, in the Holy Wrath OTK Paladin. That's another very, very bad matchup, in my opinion, up against the Druid. Now that you have Kun the Forgotten King, of course, getting you to ludicrous amounts of armor.
Yeah, it's very difficult, and it's not even that hard to pull off for the Druid in that matchup because it's just very straightforward. The Paladin has to draw the whole deck. The Druid can draw maybe not quite as fast as the Paladin, but pretty close, and it means that, yeah, they can get away with it. And see some of the results there as well. A better UK player than us, casters. I wasn't there when this decision was made, and neither were you, Derek, so I'm pretty sure, and neither was Sottle, that this just means by casters, Lorinda and Falk, which, yeah, I agree with that statement, actually.
That's actually surprisingly accurate, in all actuality, I would say that DeadDraw is probably the #2 player we have in the UK at the moment for Hearthstone. He would honestly, I think, give Ball Control a run for his money. While Ball Control is clearly the more famous of the 2 players, a big streamer as well, I think the consistent, extremely high ladder results that DeadDraw has been putting forward that now seem to be transitioning through to tournament results with Seoul and here as well. He's a real contender for the best in the UK.
Yeah, now we see just as important and vital information here for Eddie as he is in GM, but also he's Hunter Ace's biggest fan and loves K-pop, and maybe those things normally go hand in hand. We'd have to poll a lot of Hunter Ace's fans to find out.
I mean, I like Hunter Ace, and I also love behind the scenes.
What?
BTS, like a...
Oh, right.
It was a joke that I don't know anything about K-pop.
Right, okay.
And I hope
got
it made
that,
sense.
but I also didn't know that you didn't know anything. I thought you were about to make a very in-depth, like, crazy joke. And it didn't really work.
I know so little about K-pop that I don't even know if that joke made sense.
That's the way we like to play it. But most importantly, one thing we pretend to know about is Hearthstone, and it is going to be happening very soon. And I had a very brief discussion with these players when we were waiting, and I was obviously waiting to come onto the desk, and these guys were waiting to get to their seats. And I was saying, like, oh, is this going to be another slow matchup? Both players bringing fairly slow decks. And they were like, they didn't think so, unless DeadDraw was saying that unless he has to play his slow deck 3 times, which is very likely. I will just mention very quickly that the names are the wrong way around. All the cameras... Wait, what's the wrong... The names are the wrong way around. Yes, because DeadDraw is on the Holy Wrath Paladin, and he is on the top, but he is not from Canada.
He is not. Eddie is, though, and he is on the Quest Shaman here, which is looking like a reasonable matchup, I would say, against the OTK Paladin. I would put it a few percentage points behind. I think that it generally struggles to be quite aggressive enough in the early game to close things out with an aggro game plan. And at the same time, it struggles in the late game to deliver enough burst damage from hand to win before the OTK lethal comes in. Yeah,
one thing I do think that's changed a lot on new Quest Shaman versus old is that with this Desert Hare and Evolve package, I found that a lot of the damage in this matchup, if you're trying to go fast, came from Life Drinkers, came from Wasps.
Yes.
And now it doesn't have to. It can come from Hares, it can come from Evolves and Mutates. So if you push that damage, and then you have the Life Drinkers and Wasps for later, I think it's a little bit more consistent in applying the pressure.
I agree. And there's certain matchups where Desert Hair and Evolve is obviously still powerful, but not perfect. Like, for example, against Rogue, they're very often able to go for Backstab, Vendetta, Eviscerate, and clear it off fairly easily most of the time. Warrior, they have Brawls or Dynamatics or Warpaths that can deal with it. Paladin, I find, actually struggles a fair bit. They don't really have too many wide board clears, and they don't want to throw down a Shrink Ray or an Equality Pyro on just a Desert Hair plus Evolve. It means that even if they do have the answer to it, it gives you a lot of time to really follow up afterwards with the high-pressure situations.
Yeah, and right now, Quest and Explorer are going to come down, draw Eddie that additional card. But most importantly, the Mogu's there, the Hair's there, and there is a Witchy Lackey to help with one or the other.
Yeah.
But really now Eddie's just looking after that Evolve, isn't he?
I think I like holding back the Witchy Lackey here. You could just go for a 3-drop, I suppose, for immediate maximum pressure. But like you said, a 4-drop from a Desert Hair or an 8-drop from a Mogu sound a little bit better.
Just a little bit.
Even next turn, Eddie, if there's no minions cleared off the board here, could go Desert Hair, Evolve it, Mogu for free. Or if Eddie DeadDraw plays anything, sorry, we could see Hair, Mogu, trade the Mogu, Evolve that. It's looking like some pretty powerful turns coming up for Eddie.
And I guess that's the one thing we've not touched on quite yet about the matchup is Paladin often doesn't really help out the Shaman in terms of with these Mogus, and depend on the deck with Sea Giants if they're running tokens. So it makes the cards just a little bit worse, but generally Mogu can be pretty decent consistently with Shaman, even with just their own minions. See a nice little clear here though, DeadDraw. Utilizing some of his minions, drawing cards, clearing the board, putting a minion on the board. That's the way I see it, a pretty solid turn, just ticking boxes right now. Yeah,
Wild Pyro sticking is a bit of a nightmare for the Quest Shaman, because a lot of the time they do kind of just have to throw out Desert Hair. It's another Battle Cry minion to complete the quest. If they don't have the Evolve, it's not a bad card a lot of the time to just play out. But now that's really just not an option for Eddie, unless he finds a way to kill off the Pyro as well.
Which he does right now. He has the Elemental, he has the Kobold Lackey. I imagine it's going to be Elemental. I guess the only frustration here is if it's Elemental, it's either Hero Power or the Lackey's in some form, and it also overloads him for the turn after.
It's just very awkward. All around Life Drinker, I mean, it just offers him a 3-1 for a 3-3 trade, which is great for DeadDraw. And you kind of want to save the Life Drinker, I think, for a Hero Power activation double Battle Cry. Desert Hair Witchy Lackey doesn't sound good to me.
I think he has to just suck it up and go Elemental.
Get rid
of this Pyro.
I think you're correct.
Yeah.
Because all the other cards in his hand have the potential to be nutty. This doesn't really.
Yeah.
This is like just
especially versus
card.
Paladin.
Yeah, exactly. It's not good against the OTK Paladin. Very much worth mentioning in this slightly slower turn, a DeadDraw special kind of deck. He absolutely adores these intricate, difficult to play, but very powerful combo decks. I remember a few months ago, he was jamming a whole bunch of the Hakar OTK Druid that players were knocking about with the Gadgetzan Auctioneer. He loved his Nomi Priest as well when that was powerful. Just these combo-oriented decks that seem to ignore tempo for the entire game. That is what he will just jam for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, and I'm one of the first people to say that I think there's actually a very high value on players bringing decks they enjoy and they've just practiced a lot versus decks that on paper are the best for any given meta or tournament.
I agree.
So as long as the deck you enjoy the most isn't terrible, then I think it's pretty good. And DeadDraw proving that, as you can see, really good Swiss score, and obviously in the semi-finals, 1 win here, and he's going to be in the finals of Masters Tour Bucharest and in the running for that EUGM spot.
And it would be so huge for DeadDraw. I honestly really, really hope he can get through to Grandmasters. Not even, as I said, because of our UK allegiance. It is purely because, as so many of the pros have been tweeting out in the last few hours, he's one of the best, if not the best, non-Grandmasters player. Yep.
Even Orange, been sat in the caster room with Orange and Casper, and Orange was saying about DeadDraw, it's just like, yeah, just always top 10 legend, no matter when you look.
Yeah.
Any day, any time, just top 10 legend at least. And he's just one of the consistent players, just so good at the game, but just really just one of the few players left, I feel, who is so good but hasn't had a big result until maybe today.
Yep. Came close with Soul, but his he went for the strange build of going for Control Warrior, and it was Specialist back then. Control Warrior in a Reno Mage-dominated meta. Still somehow managed to beat them all the way to top 8, but then quickly O2'd out of there.
Yep. DeadDraw in the meantime just having to face down this board, and it does not look enjoyable at all.
The, what is that called? The something Golem Fortune thing? The card that gives a coin to your opponent when it attacks is a blessing and a curse, as it so often feels. Doesn't die to the true silver. Huge amounts of damage available. But an OTK Paladin with more mana, that sounds terrifying.
It does, but Eddie has a lot of damage. Life Drinker, Kobold, Wasp. I'm not sure what his quest is on right now, but it's getting there, which means that maybe he can proc his quest with, say, just like a Life Drinker this turn and try and get there, and then have, you know, the Hero Power Wasp, Hero Power Kobold Lackey for some tons of burst damage.
I think he's at 4 now, but again, I'm probably just guessing randomly.
I think my point is, I feel like not swinging with a 5-attack minion gives the Paladin player more time than giving them a coin. What?
You're probably right, but it also gives the access to heal. I guess at this point there's not actually, I say heal as if it's like a nebulous thing they can just always do. It's only specific cards that can heal. You've already seen a Flash of Light. The True Silver's equipped. Shavala's way off. Yeah, exactly. I guess you're right. Only in the usual way.
Like coin Shavala, how does that even work? Like, oh, like you would imagine.
It just coins it.
And now, though, no AoE removal available. There is the Shrink Ray now, and I guess with the coin, the Pyromancer does get the job done if DeadDraw wants to commit here.
Were you thinking Pyromancer coin Shrink Ray? I wonder if there's anything better, like Pyromancer coin Holy Wrath on the 5/6, or even Pyromancer coin Holy Wrath on 3/3, and then just swing in with the weapon. It's like a fair bit of damage that you're tanking there, but it keeps a Shrink Ray. Is that even good? Do you care about keeping a Shrink Ray?
Yeah, I think I think with this board, and also because Eddie's not exactly got tons of cards, I think you just get rid. You've got other stuff. There's also Shavala already in hand. There's Novice Engineer, Acolyte of Pain. There's tons of stuff in hand to do, but none of it worked unless he dealt with that board. So I like that. Just get rid, reset the game a little bit, and then go again.
I like it a lot too. It keeps 2 swings of True Silver active, and most importantly, you don't tank 5 damage. And when Shavala is as far off as it is, I think that's absolutely correct.
And also, you could argue that it could have time out to buy time and just buy a turn, but the problem is you end up doing that turn anyway. Yes, you end up with 1 more mana because it's 1 turn later in the game, but there might be a point now where DeadDraw doesn't have to time out for like another 6 turns, which is insane.
That's a good point. Yeah.
He's low on health, though, and again, there is the Wasp in hand, which if you can get hold of a Lackey to stick it on board, it will be able to deal 6 now.
He's got a good little hand. Witchwood Piper finding him the Sludge Slurper as well. There's a fair few good Lackeys off of that.
Even Shudderwock has a Life Drinker, Kobold, a Wasp, potentially.
Let me think.
I hope you like my invention.
Nothing too crazy there in terms of the draw.
Yeah, you're always hesitant to throw down Flash of Light before, or the second Flash of Light before you find Kangor. But I think DeadDraw's probably more heavily looking at draw your way through to Shavala and then abuse that effect with the Kangor.
And on that note, I guess this makes this turn a little bit better. You do float 1 mana, but you float 1 mana and keep a Flash of Light while still drawing cards. So, and it was a turn where if you're ever going to take a slow turn, you take it when you're facing down 2 1/1s and nothing else.
I love the swing into the Kobold Lackey as well for a few reasons. It obviously denies Weaponized Wasp, but also just bounces. You know, going for a Fog Slosher there on the Kobold Lackey, Barista would have been devastating. Or Barista would have been game over pretty much there.
Now, Faceless Lackey and Titanic Lackey, probably the 2 worst in this specific scenario, of course.
I'd want every other Lackey over those 2. But even just Witchy for the Evolve is pretty good.
That's what I mean, it's not bad, right? Whereas these, the health doesn't matter, extra minions fine, but not great.
We're just all in on the Demahe plan.
At that point, is there much reason to even trade here? Even in 1 damage to face might make the difference.
there is, honestly, I'm not seeing it.
Ooh, okay. I didn't know if he was going to Mogu.
Really?
I didn't think it was a given. Put it that way. I think
yeah.
you know, he has hair. He has two evolves left in the deck, and I don't hate it, but I didn't think it was just a of course he Mogus this turn.
And this is arguably too all-in. I don't think it is, considering how strong the rest of his hand is. But you know, you could say this is good enough to demand an answer already.
And we can always argue. Let's be honest.
Oh, we'll find a way.
If we both agree, and it's like, no, I agree more.
We're not like that.
Zephyrus is live as well now, though.
That's
just
true.
give me weird smirks across the desk. But yeah, Zephyrus is
No, it
live.
wasn't.
Thank you.
You're wrong.
Wait, what? So it does mean that DeadDraw has access to on-demand answers to certain situations, right? He can heal if he gets too low. He can clear board if it requires. But I think clearing board with Zephyrus isn't necessarily the way he's going to win this game. I think it's more likely he uses it to heal because he has board clears.
Right, and the other thing that DeadDraw does need to consider, at least, is he's not running Emperor Thorasand in his deck. So 30 health for Eddie is potentially enough to survive the game on, if he plays the Zephyrus, at which point it gets a lot harder to deal the necessary amount of damage. I think he's probably not really thinking about that. He should have a good amount of liberty to just throw down the Zephyrus a little earlier. But that is a good amount of damage now.
It really is, isn't it?
Especially loading up the Shuttlewalk in the next couple of turns.
And I'd almost like it. So he's going to overload for one. He can go to... I'm wondering if he can set up a board here.
Yeah.
Not do any damage from hand, and then surprise him with like Hero Power Life Drinker or Hero Power Life Drinker and Wasp, depending on how the mana stacks up after Overload, of course. But he is going to do the Wasp now, which means that he is on course of just setting this up where DeadDraw just has to actually say, oh, I either need to time out, I need to heal, or I need to wipe this board, and even then it might be game over.
And that's always what you want to be doing in this matchup. Keep the Paladin guessing. They just never know what they need to get to, because as soon as they know, okay, they have exactly 12 damage. If they stay above 12, they win the game.
Yeah, exactly.
But if they never know, they can use timeouts early. They can use Chevalo and not end up shuffling it back in. You can always trick them out if you know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, and this is why I really like this board overall. It's just, it's a whole lot of nothing, but it's easily enough to make DeadDraw feel the pain here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, oh. Forest Guide, does that change anything? Does that make an overdraw?
My
No.
hand
Yep.
is too full.
Holy Wrath. Ooh.
That is a big difference now. That means that the damage for DeadDraw is now capped at 29 for the most
In
part,
one
right?
turn.
In one turn,
Yeah.
yes. And I guess it was still 29 in one turn anyway, but it potentially means if Eddie is able to tank one turn of damage and then heal up with maybe Hero Power Life Drinker or Shuttlewalk.
Also, as well, he can now plan to Bog Slosh Life Drinker to get an additional activation into his
Great
Shuttlewalk.
point. That could have big implications. I still think that DeadDraw should have enough damage to fairly handily close this one out, if he survives, that is. Because that is far and away the more important part of his game plan is don't die.
It's generally a good step one.
In all aspects of life.
Do try them. Shivala gonna come down now along with that banker. And he can do this, he cannot Holy Wrath twice. So may as well get a Shivala down, banker one, you're gonna get the other one and do the same again.
I
but
agree.
with a Holy Wrath a little bit later on.
Does of course mean you're a draw further away from going for the full OTK because you have to draw a whole extra card. That's probably an acceptable trade-off when you consider the amount of damage he's just wiped from existence.
Look at this now.
That's pretty good.
That's very good, right? That's
pretty good.
Really
wow.
higher than the average.
Yeah. Even the arena treasure chest is fine, right? If the board demands being wiped anyway.
And also as well, it's not a battle cry, so it's not going in the Shuttlewalk pool of, maybe overdrawing you or drawing your extra cards.
Prince Liam, bit of a meme at this point, but appreciated nonetheless.
Just a guy.
No, you want my brother. I'm regular Liam.
It's baby Liam. DeadDraw has done a good job of holding on to this timeout, though, because he could have. I mean, he could have used it any turn, but it's arguable he could have gained. Some other players may have used it a little bit earlier in the game, but he's held on to it. And now that the real threatening boards are kicking in, maybe it is time.
We've got to bear in mind as well now, he could, at any point here, just rip the Holy Wrath and hope to get lethal. He could do it on this turn. Like, if he goes for this and Shivala is his only minion, then it locks it out as a possibility. Also locks out the second timeout, which is a pretty big deal, actually.
Ouch. And now my question is, was that needed?
Yeah.
Because he has timeout, he has some card draw still. He definitely has a decent chunk of health as well, especially when you consider he has Kangor, Flash of Light.
Yep.
He has Zephyrus. And it's easy for me to sit here and say, well, that timeout's bad now.
And to be fair, you know, it draws 2 cards. It does mean he can go Flash of Light this turn, then timeout as well. Although even then, it's probably not worth the timeout.
Well, he has
quite
Thanos
yet.
as well, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. If he goes timeout this turn, he's guaranteed a Shivala activation next turn. But it's not guaranteed lethal because Eddie can heal back up to 30. Oh no, wait, he could, but because DeadDraw gets the 2 damage through to face here, Eddie could not heal to full. That was the card that DeadDraw was looking for, right? Was the equality, so that he could sneak the 2 damage in. Because now
it's actually insane.
Shivala, Shuffle, Holy Wrath, Zephyrus, Soulfire is the game.
So because of that, does Eddie have to hero power Cable Rat? Yeah, try and get like a spell,
which is
to then heal up to full. Wow. Nope and nope. So he's just got to hope DeadDraw or Zephyrus messes up. I don't know what's more likely now. What a cheeky banker. Just a bit 2 extra.
Watch it.
Hey, your words, not mine. 2 damage to face.
I've never wanted anyone to slip up so much in my entire life. Yes.
Don't break. But that's just it, right?
That's just it.
I honestly think, especially with the way Eddie played, he knows. He knows.
Yeah.
You know,
he knows 100% what's coming. There's no way out of it here. That was
actually so insane
play by DeadDraw. That was amazing.
Eddie looked like he was in charge, I would say, for most of that game. DeadDraw, I did feel, although wasn't just dead every turn, but on the back foot. And now he'd just be able to wrap it up pretty cleanly, as long as Zephyrus hasn't been over-tweaked based on what some players have discussed.
I think he'll get lethal there.
Soulfire, there we go. Job done. And DeadDraw takes game number 1. Very, very close indeed, but just about managed it through. And honestly, I didn't even think that the equality with the banker pushing the damage, I did not see it until it had already happened. Crazy.
Yeah, I think that was, and also I think it was a fantastic play. I don't think DeadDraw just thought, oh, this looks like a good play, I'll clear some off the board.
Right.
I think he knew exactly what he was going for when he started the turn. The criticism you could make is, of course, on the turn where he went for the prismatic lens, he swapped the Shivala and the timeout.
Right.
He could have swapped with the equality, and then it's unplayable at that point,
true.
right? And therefore, and at that point, the play is no longer valid because you can't push the face for 2. But then he would have another timeout.
But then he wouldn't have been in that position to do it anyway, right?
And I'm sure he had other avenues to think about if that plan didn't work out. But giving himself just a very strong chance of getting that game plan, I think, was a beautiful bit of Hearthstone.
Yeah, it was really nice. And like you said, the lens could have worked out a bit differently, but the lens did draw him 2 cards deeper that got him there quicker. So it looked pretty good overall. DeadDraw taking the win with that Holy Wrath piled in. And we can see what is coming up next. It's going to be the Rogue versus the Warrior. And correct me if I'm wrong, but historically, not the best matchup for the Rogue.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at some of the key tech cards that can definitely change this around. Because if we think back to when Control Warrior, or I suppose Bomb Warrior as well, and the Temper Rogue were at their peak just after the release of Rise of Shadows, when Evil Miscreant had just been released, of course, it was fairly favoured for the Warrior, in my opinion. The main reason being they had the Weapons Project. That was a fantastic card at shutting down anything the aggro rogue tried to do, because Wagglepick being destroyed by a Weapons Project was pretty much just game over.
Right.
The reduction in damage, the gain in life for the warrior, the fact you couldn't bounce your Leroys, your Miscreants, any of the other good battle cries was just devastating. Eddie's not running it in this deck, which is a big tick, a big bonus for DeadDraw, but he's not running Heist Baron Togwaggle, which a lot of the other players have been going for, so he's pretty all in on an aggressive game plan.
And that's what I wanted to raise as well as a point is earlier this weekend we've seen Alan play Rogue versus some slow matchups and done very, very, very well. But he had Heist Baron Togwaggle, so that is a big deal. You can go for the value plan if you have a couple of the cards that are actually active here. So it looks like we are going to be going into game number 2. DeadDraw on the top on this Rogue, Eddie on the bottom on the Warrior.
Very respectable start here for DeadDraw. Obviously, you're keeping the Edwin Van Cleef. That's an addendum you have to add into any bad matchup for Rogue, which is Edwin. They can just make a turn 2 6/6, a turn 4 8/8, to which if the opponent does not have the immediate answer, the game ends on the spot.
Yeah, being on coin as well. It's
huge.
Also notable, Eddie doesn't have access to a 1-drop, which I feel happens in every other Warrior game I ever cast. So this is a pretty big deal. His hand's actually quite bad right now.
It's true. He's only running the 2 Town Criers, no Eternium Rovers whatsoever. Slightly greedier build, actually, all things considered. Of course, it is the N'Zoth Warrior instead of the Taunt Control version. But, you know, Hakar thrown in there, Elysiana as well, a youthful Brewmaster. This is a hyper-greedy version of Warrior.
Legreed. And Vent's not going to do too much. And is it ever backstab your own?
I'm considering it. I am heavily considering it. Because if you think about the potential punishes, it's Weapons Project Shield Slam. That's not possible. There is no Weapons Project. There's no Execute in the deck. Like Snip Snap coming down, I think, is fine.
Too early for Shield Block, Shield Slam.
That's right. And even turn 4, if you made a 6/6, would be too early. Would not be enough damage, sorry, to take out a 6/6. So I think if you check through everything that's possible on this turn, there's nothing that kills off the Edwin. Let's get chunking some damage out the way.
And here we go. Van Cleef going to come down as that 6/6. And like you said, this is just it's not mind-blowing play, but it's solid play of just saying, right, well, they don't have any answers. This is going to deal X damage as a minimum, and it might even just be better. The Acolyte pickup is not half bad. I don't know if it's enough to really stop DeadDraw hitting face. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're still just going directly to the face here because, you know, what can they do? Warpath, like double Warpath trade is the punish now, I suppose, which is pretty bad, actually, to be fair.
But your Cleave still lives.
But your Cleave still lives, exactly. And that's the game plan here. It's Waggle Pick, Swing Face, hope to find Leroy. I think even if he knew there was a Warpath in hand, honestly, he'd still consider just jamming face.
And now, though, as well, the Mummy pickup means that this Van Cleef is almost certainly guaranteed dead if Eddie chooses it to be. And oof, indeed. I think with 2 Waggle picks and being on 4 mana, it would lead me to say, yes, let's play this game where I push 10 damage this turn. But I wouldn't be overly upset if it was just, say, double 2-drop instead.
Thinking through all the possibilities, Dynamatic on this board is
dodge Dynamatic,
disaster
right?
time, yeah. Even Restless Mummy playing around that is pretty strong. Because given this N'Zoth Warrior deck having just drawn 3 cards off of an Acolyte, can you really assume they have nothing to taunt or gain life in the next few turns? And I think because of that, Waggle Pick just on average doesn't get there, even though you have 4 swings that you want to start getting through.
I think it is double 2-drop for me. I guess one of the frustrations with this play is it also kind of strands the Quest Adventure in hand as well.
Yeah.
Because that's not going to get activated in any reasonable way anytime soon. But this is the best versus what you can expect to see, which is the Restless Mummy or the Dynamatic. And even as well, a pretty good placement for the what's the name of that card? I always forget this one for some reason.
Super Collider?
Super Collider, there we go. I don't know why I forget it either. I cast it enough. It's one of those ones that does not stick.
What do I always forget? There's one card I have as well that I can just never remember the name of. kind of appropriate that I can't remember the name of the card. I can't remember.
I was going to say, can't help you because, as per, you cannot remember it. Ooh, this turn doesn't look good either, does it?
It does not. I am sensing at this point that you kind of have to start going in with a waggle pick, because even if they throw down the Kartuk Defender, having the waggle pick equipped is good to swing through the first 4 health part of it. But then the downside is, I suppose, you then have to bounce back one of these minions to hand, which you don't want to do.
Is it ever desperation enough to quest in and then attack, bounce one of them, and replay it? It's absolutely
so bad.
horrible. Or you just got to quest him past. No, he's going to do the bounce, okay.
Oh my god.
DeadDraw is almost playing this game. I don't really blame him for it, but of saying, I have these 5 cards to win the game. And this is how he's planning on doing it, which is understandable. Again, he makes a fairly threatening board. Still has a lot of damage from these waggle picks.
Yeah, lovely easy clue here. For Eddie, the Kartuk Defender is really filling the slot that Sludge Birch did a lot of the time. Sludge Birch, sorry, back in the day. Of just, it's the last threat. It just locks your opponent out of the game rather than actually removing stuff a lot of the time. And I think Eddie has the exact right idea here. You can just save that to close out the game at the end.
Yeah, the combination of Kartuk Defender and Boom's around as well. You've got double brawl in case anything goes crazy.
Yeah.
That might actually, like you said, just straight up lock out this game. It's kind of insane.
So what are we looking at for DeadDraw? The good cards he can find. Number 1, Myras. Always what you're looking for in these kind of games. You just kept it against Warrior back in the day. I mean, way back in the day, you kept it against literally everything. It was the best card in the deck by miles. But now you are absolutely looking for that against Warrior every time. And if DeadDraw can get it off the top, we have one heck of a game on our hands.
I was wondering how greedy to get, and I was just eyeing up that Emperor for just a second and going, because, like, again, if there's a sap here, there's a window.
Yeah.
You just got to think about these potential worst-case scenarios, and I'm not saying you should always play around the worst-case scenarios, but it needs to be some level of consideration for it.
Absolutely.
And this hand is very, very expensive, and the Emperor would actually allow him to play Boom a little bit easier.
Ooh, Upgrade is a pretty spicy card. It allows him to, if he wants to, not bounce a card on this turn, which is probably good, right?
Yeah.
Unless you hit exactly Fox.
Well, now he could upgrade, just swing, put the 1/2 into the other card to push 2, and then save the sap for maybe next turn. Because the problem is if you sap, you're in the same spot next turn.
Well, what if they don't have another one?
Well, I mean,
sorry, if you sap,
if you sap this turn,
sorry, I'm sorry. My point was, why would you save the sap? Because potentially they don't have another one. So you should just use it now while it's good, and then do the attack through on the following turn anyway. Maybe.
I guess it's like, yeah, I don't know, stuff. I guess in my mind, I think the other way, where if you sap, you give them a turn. This turn, whereas if you killed it, they might have a bit more health, but the turn might be significantly worse.
It comes down to Eddie just saying, if you have the second sap, the game is over.
Wait, is the game over anyway? He goes 3, 4, 2, 5, 11, heals for 6. It's not quite right.
So you play the Leroy first, and then you don't attack with it, right? You swing with the weapon so that you have the highest drops. Or what about if you go play the Leroy, 3/3, you trade all the other minions in? Is that a 50% for the game?
That's because you definitely want to trade the minions away, right? Before you swing.
Yeah. Trade everything away.
Because you can trade even just the 3/3 and the 1/2 is a clean trade into the minion, right?
Right.
And he loses the Blink Fox, which is good. He wants to get rid of the Blink Fox. And the second trade can be the 2/3. So yeah, he takes a 50-50 here to be able to bounce this Leroy.
Oh.
And you see now it'll go up to, what, 15?
Yeah, that's lethal.
Looks green to me. He's locked in the attack and it's green, so he can replay.
That's the hit.
Wow, DeadDraw taking a game that just did not look like it was going to happen.
How did he come even close to winning that game?
I do not know, but what I will say is making the most of his hand and getting all that minion damage pushed was key.
Yes.
He did get the upgrade, which was obviously huge, but also, even though it didn't look great, that Quest Adventurer turn where he said, you know what, it's not great, but I'm just going to work with what I've got and play some minions to present some threats. I like it, honestly.
And if you think all the way back, the turn where he had Waggle Pick or double 2-drop, the amount of damage those 2-drops got in is kind of absurd. The Questing Adventurer...
hit for the rest of the game, right?
Right, exactly. The Questing Adventurer was the lightning rod that made sure the Restless Mummy had to attack into that instead. For example, if he hadn't Shadow Stepped and played again the Underbelly Fence, maybe that was just game, because all of a sudden the Mummy can just go one attack into the Questing, other into the Fence. It was so many minute decisions.
The card Defender doesn't get traded into as well, because the minion just doesn't exist.
Oh, minute decisions, so many of which had to go exactly right or made correctly for DeadDraw, which led to a win. That was a masterclass of aggro rogue.
Yeah, it was really huge, especially because there were no lackeys. There were no lackeys. There was nothing crazy involved outside of arguably the upgrade, and he made it work. So very impressive overall for DeadDraw there. He's only one game away from booking his spot in the Masters Tour Bucharest finals. But we're going to go to a quick break while we go and get ready for game number 3. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with some more Masters Talk. We are back and going to be continuing this series, the semi-final number 2 for the Masters Tour Bucharest here, and we are getting ready to go into the finals very, very shortly. But DeadDraw is only one game away, and honestly, I don't really know how we got there, and this is no slight at him at all. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
His play is that one play with the Holy Wrath Paladin in game 1 just put him in a position where Eddie could not defend, and then again his rogue just about getting a win against Eddie's warrior. So 2 extremely close games where DeadDraw has took it with like no wiggle room, right? He just maximized usage of resources to the point where any more or any less and it wouldn't have been the game.
That's right. For a true 4-head lad, he's been making some real 5-head plays so far in this series, dare I say. But now, it is a very different style of play that we're going to have to see. We've seen the combo in the Paladin, the aggro in the Rogue, and now the control in the Warrior. It's a real masterclass of all different aspects of Hearthstone play for him here. And it is going to be a pretty grindy matchup that he has left now. I believe this looks like the Control Warrior mirror, unless I'm very much mistaken. And so why don't we, as is very important in these matchups, take a little bit of a look at the lists. Okay, I am seeing on one side of the board an Elysiana, which is in Eddie's hand. I'm seeing a youthful Brewmaster with which to bounce it back to the hand, potentially. And I am seeing none of those things on the other side. So I'm saying DeadDraw is in a very, very bad position.
Well, also, so Eddie has Hakar as well, right?
He does also have Hakar, yes. Yeah.
So this is one of the issues that DeadDraw mentioned before we started this match to me outside. He was like, yeah, I'm doing all right unless I have to play my control deck 3 times. And I think that's going to happen because Eddie, on the other hand, is bringing basically a control buster control lineup.
That's it.
Which is going to be very problematic for this Warrior. And this is where conquest starts to happen. Because, yes, DeadDraw won 2 games in a pretty spectacular fashion. But if he can't win with this Warrior, he just can't win the series.
Basically, the way I'm seeing it at the moment, DeadDraw has to beat the Shaman, right? Because up against the Control Warrior, he definitely doesn't have a 0% win rate. There's never a 0% win rate in Hearthstone.
It's close,
but
though.
This is pretty close, to be perfectly
1%.
honest. Yeah, yeah. Like, we're looking at a deck that has a tremendous amount of defensive capability, both in terms of the removal, of course, and the stat lines of the minions. All the Kartuk defenders that are being summoned back, Ziliaxes, and all that goodness. But it doesn't have all too many offensive threats. It's very, very difficult to put on a tempo victory with this deck. And given that DeadDraw has Elysiana, Battlecry, shuffle 10 cards, or replace your cards, you replace your deck with 10 discovered cards, which you generally use, draw your entire deck, then shuffle 10 more in. DeadDraw cannot win in fatigue, and therefore we see that perfectly demonstrated by this play. He's just drawing cards.
And there's no point, because even with like Hakar as well, it's Hakar, give your opponent bloods that will kill them, and give you none because you Elysiana them away.
That's right.
So they disappear. So it does mean that this game, as you said, is not a foregone conclusion.
Right.
But the onus is on DeadDraw to do something pretty spectacular, and honestly, I don't even know if it's possible.
And I'm almost wondering if Eddie, you know, even just getting into large metagame thinking here already, will potentially not ever play the Hakar if possible, because there is the weird but still possible play for DeadDraw where he can try and draw a few of the bloods, deliberately get like 6 or 8 of them in his deck or so, and then go up to 10 cards and deliberately overdraw the rest of his deck. And at that point try to at least have a chance in fatigue, maybe survive a little bit longer. Honestly, I think given that he's already drawn 2 or 3 cards, it's not really a possibility anymore. Yeah. So for Eddie, like you said, it's probably just a Hakar game.
And it is the issue that I know Saul was talking about backstage as well, where we were saying that's definitely a strategy.
Yeah.
If you think your opponent might not know about that strategy. Whereas if both of you know it, you're not going to make the mistake. So DeadDraw's not going to be able to do that because, as you said, if Eddie thinks DeadDraw's good enough to know that, which he definitely does, then he just won't do it, and then his plan won't work, and then he just wins with Elysiana. Whereas, as you mentioned quite rightly, if DeadDraw starts cycling because he knows that, then Eddie can do it with the Hakar. So it's just a weird, almost revolving door of how these players are dealing with this matchup.
And of course, we know that he knows that he knows that he knows.
The only thing I'm sure is I'm not sure if I know. Unravel that one.
I'll be back in 27 years.
Brithalson going to come down now. Maybe just to play something and reduce his hand. Of course, having this Brewmaster now along with Elysiana. He didn't need to hit both, but why not? It means that this Elysiana into Brewmaster is available right here, right now.
Wait a second, I only want to hit one. I'm getting rid of this Brewmaster.
Just play it. Wait a minute. I guess for DeadDraw, there are some things he could do, but the damage is already done because we can see Eddie's hand. Because he could discover a Hecklebot. kill off
a good point.
Elysiana.
It's a good point, yeah.
You know, he could do things like that, right? We've seen, not in this deck, of course, but we've seen players even play decoy in their deck, which means that they can pull out minions from hand. Like, again, if that means a Brewmaster, it helps.
It does definitely all start to add up. I think for the most part, though, you know, as we've agreed, DeadDraw's game plan here is tempo. He needs to have a big board that Eddie does not have an answer for. You know, if he can find Dr. Boom, a bunch of taunts, a couple of good mechs off of the Omega Assembly here, and then N'Zoth finally to cap all of that off, maybe he's looking at a victory. But again, it is an uphill battle.
Right. And even now, like, Eddie has the inevitability, and he's also kind of acting like a beatdown right now as well. So it's kind of like, well, this is just worse in every way.
I guess it's really just about not overextending for Eddie, because DeadDraw, while he still has to play for tempo, is at the end of the day a control warrior. He has a tremendous amount of removal, and so if you give him a good use for that removal, it will maybe clear the way for his minions to start going face.
I do think Eddie is more than happy with just having, I'll just deal 4 damage a turn. Yeah, you know, you deal with this or don't. I'm happy either way.
Yeah, it's a good spot to not overextend. I definitely think so.
What now?
And this is quite quickly getting to the point where decisions have to be made. Like, does DeadDraw just throw a Cartut Defender down, gets it in the N'Zoth pool, does something this turn and doesn't pass? Is that even worthwhile? Does it become worthwhile just because it's something to do? I don't really know.
I wonder.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about the hand that maybe gets there for DeadDraw. This is not that hand.
It's more defensive than the Controlator deck.
Exactly. Like, Double Omega Assembly obviously gets rolling pretty quickly on turn 10. He has the opportunity to throw one down earlier, but I think, you know, when we talk about tempo, I need to be specific about what I mean. Like, he needs to overwhelm his opponent with resources before Eddie is able to draw the rest of his deck. You know, if he just goes for 1 minion tempoed out, 1 minion tempoed out, that's not going to get there. He needs to have enough stuff to outlast the removal in Eddie's hand, not necessarily in the entirety of his deck.
Right.
Which is possible. It is possible.
But this is the problem overall, isn't it? We're not in the days where there's a heavy curve coming out from one warrior, you know, Omega Devastators and so on, piling on the mechs. There's no Snip Snap or anything for DeadDraw, so the fact that his aggro option was a Cartut Defender, it pretty shows how miserable of a spot he is. Because
right.
It's just, he's already matched by Eddie, and Eddie just still has removal if he wants. It's he could have matched him with this Cartut, or he could have just killed it off pretty easily. But as you said, if it's just one threat at a time, that is very manageable.
Yeah. And it really just demonstrates how much of a gridlock these N'Zoth decks are. I was talking to Frozen last night after the event was finished for the day, and he was talking very passionately about his Resurrect Priest, which he managed to convince a lot of that practice group to bring, and specifically about the Mirror, or against any other N'Zoth decks. And he was just saying that if you have a N'Zoth Priest Mirror, whoever goes first has a 100% win rate. If they don't mess up, you just cannot lose from that position, because your opponent draws an extra card, so they die in fatigue. That's just it. That's how he's solved the game, which, like, you know, believe it or don't, like, he could be mistaken. And of course, when Hekar enters into it, it gets a little bit more crazy than all that. But it does just speak, I think, to how impossible it is to get any kind of a board lead in these matchups.
Right. That's pretty funny as well. Yeah, so guys, we're going to have speed Hearthstone today. Whoever goes first wins. So queue up, game starts, game's over. Congratulations, you win.
And I think in this matchup, we're, in a way, kind of thankfully given not that chance for the way the matchup to go. Eddie, in his preparation, prepared for specifically this matchup by having these cards in his deck. He cannot really lose this matchup. And DeadDraw knows it, like you were saying. When he was talking to you, he knew this was the nightmare scenario for him.
I think I've got to ask these questions. not that Q order is important, but maybe he should have just queued Warrior first and said, if this doesn't win, I ain't winning the series, so let's go.
Yeah. It just feels even more dire than the old like Control Warrior versus Quest Rogue matchups you used to see. Like, I remember once in one of the most incredible games I think, or series I've ever cast of Hearthstone, which was Muzzy at the Copa America Semifinals, where he had a almost full control lineup and his opponent had the Quest Rogue, and he was thinking like, oh, you know, his opponent would definitely be able to get a win on the Quest Rogue. Muzzy's in a bit of a tough spot. He didn't just beat the Quest Rogue, he 3-0'd the Quest Rogue with his triple control lineup. It was the most ridiculous series I've ever seen in my life, which demonstrates that even in these ridiculously unlikely to win matchups, there's always a chance, as slim as it may be. It's an awkward shape, these couple of snip snaps for Eddie to deal with. To be fair, maybe this is able to sneak in, dare I say, 6 damage.
Crazy. I think he'll only have 5 armor on top of his 30 health.
Imagine that.
I do get your point, though. It is kind of awkward, right? You can't really do anything right now. And if this stays the same, what draws even do deal with these snip snaps? There isn't anything too crazy. Maybe this is just DeadDraw locking in the win.
And he just concedes, well, yeah, you got me there.
You know what? I can't clear this snip snap. I guess I just lose.
I'm dead.
It's almost like he went first. Frozen was right all along.
Yes, I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
Imagine if we like somehow just look back on every competitive Hearthstone game and whoever went first won.
Just no one's realised until now.
Frozen's just mega mind over here. I've solved the game.
Okay. We're talking about win conditions.
Do you want me to say it?
Yes, say the thing.
Mechathune is a card that can win games.
Yes, it can.
And and honestly, how does it do that? Because there's a lot of misconception in terms of when Mechathune can and cannot win certain matchups.
Right. So the difference is, often in the Control Warrior mirrors, one player will come ahead as significantly behind, but they both have Elysiana. If you have Elysiana in your hand, Mechathune cannot win you the game. It's just pretty much impossible churning through that many cards before you've played all of them.
As well.
That's the thing. That's the thing. In this matchup, though, if DeadDraw is able to cycle through his deck, play the Mechathune, and Eddie does not have Silence, maybe he can get there. The counteractor to that is Hakalo, I just realized. Once Hakaro is played, Mechathune is locked out as a win condition. It cannot win the game. Unless you just smack your opponent with it 10 times in the face.
I mean, that also works. And the win condition for Mechathune isn't that, it's a 10-10.
Death Rattle, you played at 10-10. Kill your opponent with it, dum-dum.
Just a message pops up.
So, I think we can probably rule out, honestly, Mechathune as a win condition, because as soon as Eddie smells anything that smells even a little bit like Mechathune, don't really know what that would smell like, he will just slam the Hakar on the board. Because we were saying Hakar can potentially, in very niche scenarios, go wrong for him. I think what is much more likely is that if he just locks out the Mechathune win condition, then he wins the game.
Yeah, I will say now DeadDraw is putting on some level of threat, so something is happening. And one thing to consider as well is when can Eddie play Hakar and Elysiana if he's getting hit in the face? He can't.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not a major thing, but it's something that could happen is if those two things are locked out, then the game becomes fairer, arguably, right?
Yeah.
If you just can't play a 10-mana, Hakar, and even the Elysiana on 8-mana, it's still just an 8-mana 7/7 do nothing, which means that if you're getting hit with an Azoth board, you just can't do that. And the longer that delay is, the slightly better it is for DeadDraw.
Which means I think we come full circle back round to DeadDraw needs to win through tempo. He needs to get minions on board and get hitting Eddie because it disrupts his game plan. And everything else just feels like a bit of an outside possibility.
If only Bulldozer was magnetized.
That'd be insane. I suppose Mechathune does actually come back off N'Zoth, which is something to consider. It's a pretty aggressive option there.
Death Rattle, stop reading this and hit him in the face. That's what it should say. Do you like this a kill on Sylvanas here, or do you like just a full ignore? I think I like pushing the damage.
Yeah, you definitely attack face with everything else. It was just how you dealt with it with the rest, and also how you factor in magnetization this turn, because you really want to like not attack with anything so that you can kill it, magnetize something on. And honestly, maybe that was actually better, right, on that turn. If the play was to play the Magma Rager, or sorry, whatever it's called, the Steel Rager, rush it in, your opponent steals one of your minions, 4 out of 5 times it's a load of rubbish that doesn't matter. Then you magnetize on, I guess it's only a missile launcher, which like destroys half your board anyway.
Yeah.
But you get to push 4 more damage to face. And
I think the only thing I would question was whether you attack with all the 1/1s, because the odds are that a steal is on the 1/1, and then you can trade one off, just as a small thing. But this brawl's going to come down. This was always going to happen.
Yeah.
When the board was this wide, and we are going to see the outcome, although either way it means that DeadDraw is going to finish the turn with 2 1/1s. Make that 3.
Eddie does not have Dr. Boom yet, which means it's always much more easy to stick a board against your opponent and also potentially run them out of resources. DeadDraw's also looking at some pretty strong tempo options now.
I wonder now, just post-brawl, do you just slam that Mechathune?
I'm looking at that heavily.
Could even shield slam the Acolyte.
To deny the card draw. True. He's taking it a little bit slower again. Yeah. I mean, I think DeadDraw has to come to the same conclusion that playing it slow and going for Mechathune is 0% a win condition, I think, at this point, with Hakara again. Unless, of course, you can draw so fast and dump your hand so fast that Hakara, if it's the bottom card, isn't able to win Eddie the game. I think that's way
I wonder
unlikely.
when you get the idea about Mechathune, because one thing that, again, is in DeadDraw's favor is Mechathune is 9 mana, and if he keeps armor, he can shield slam it. So there's the insta-turn, right? Like, there's the you don't play Mechathune and then wait till it dies. Okay. You can insta-shield slam it.
I will add an addendum here. I apologize. Mechathune is still a win condition with Hakar. You have to overdraw the blood, though. You have to have 10 cards in hand,
right?
Overdraw it. Then
are we going that deep down the rabbit hole, Derek?
I honestly think we have to, right? If we're trying to get into DeadDraw's mindset and thinking, how do I win this game? Step 1 is 100% just through tempo. That is what he should be trying to move towards. But what he's doing here is playing 1 card a turn. He's staying at 8 cards in hand, 7, 8, 9 cards all the time, which means at any point you could just start hero powering up, not developing anything else, and hope that Eddie goes for the Hakar, and then just burn it away and go for Mechathune. I will apologize for the mistake I made. It is still a consideration 100% for DeadDraw, even if it is incredibly unlikely.
It's like when you're kids and you play like sort of half imaginary games, and your friend would always say like, "Oh yeah, you do this, but then I can do this," and it just keeps like leveling up powers of ridiculousness.
But my lightsaber has little lightsabers that come out of it.
Now I have 10 lightsabers. What does 10 do, Jeff? Jeez. Can't even carry them. I've got 10 arms.
My gun shoots guns. Shut up, Nathan.
And now, most importantly as well, pretty sweet here for DeadDraw. This Bulldozer just gets to hit face. That's just pushing a lot of damage. What if he just... I guess there's always Plague. I was wondering whether he just like missile launcher on the Bulldozer. It's like, this is a scary Bulldozer.
It's a lot of damage, right? You could go double trade. Well, that's right. You could go double trade Plague of Wrath and then missile launcher. Is that what you were considering? Sorry. And then.
Well, I was thinking more about going all in on 1 minion versus a Plague of Wrath you're expecting from Eddie as well. But why not push the damage, I guess?
That's strong, right? He can clear the board and make a 13 attack minion that's smacking to the face. It even keeps the Divine Shield, right? That is hard to deal with.
It seems pretty good overall.
Seems very good to me.
I honestly did not see the Plague straight away.
Right.
But as always, when our powers combine, we make one decent caster.
I wonder what else he's seeing here that he prefers over that line. He's not connecting peace with it.
But now surely he has... I don't think he's a fan of this turn.
Am I missing something? This felt so much worse than what we were considering.
Yeah, I think
it's a plague.
I think he might not saw it.
Yeah.
Because also, I think even at the end of that turn, you cannot be happy of putting 13 damage into a snip snap. You're not telling me anyone's happy with that plan.
That is bad. That is just the wrong play. And this is what is heartbreaking to me, because DeadDraw has proven time and time again to himself, the casters, the community, and the pro players especially, how good he is. It just feels like nerves might be getting him to it a little bit. Again, you know, maybe he's seeing something that we're not. I think he's that good where he could be thinking huge metagame. Maybe he needs the double Plague of Wrath for something else. But I'm going to side on err on the side of he just sunk 13 damage into a snip snap.
Yeah. Ugh. Also as well, not even nerves, but fatigue.
It's a great point.
These guys that are playing right now have been playing for the best part of 3 days straight of Hearthstone, and hard Hearthstone as well. They're not just grinding ladder, rank 5 or anything like that. They're playing against literally some of the best players in the world. Every player in this tournament qualified to be here, and it's been a tough road for both these players.
The N'Zoth coming down before the Mechathune does, I think, indicate that maybe he's trying to keep the dream alive with Mechathune. It's also obviously the most aggressive play he can make on this turn, but it's a lot of value he's missing out on.
I have a question, and I should definitely know the answer to this. Can you Plague with no minions on board? Does it let you Plague of Wrath?
I don't know the answer. I'm sorry, it feels like it's
never
inconsistent with that.
Yeah. Well, some things let you and some things don't, right? So it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say yes, you can, actually.
Just because that's a thought where if he needs to clear his hand, there's not many Plague opportunities, right? And he has 2 in his hand right now for DeadDraw.
Yeah.
Mr. Boom?
I think you can.
Also, as well, arguably this turn wouldn't be a bad Plague, would it? If you want to just even this out.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, you can take some good kind of under trades first, just deliberately sacrificing away your smaller minions. It's really just the Sylvanas that's really messing with what DeadDraw's trying to do right now.
Is he going to just boom pass, maybe?
Wow, boom into boom for both players.
I'm so
Well, not pass, make a couple of trades, but you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah, no big power plays.
Oh, I love that news thing.
Again, just a reminder, if you tune in a little bit late here, if DeadDraw wins this game, he is booking a spot in the finals of Masters Tour Bucharest. If Eddie loses, he finishes his day with a top 4 finish.
Well, if DeadDraw wins, he is our next European Hearthstone Grandmaster. All he had to do was finish second, and no other European to finish first. And with now Kin through to the finals, this is DeadDraw's
you're right, actually.
GM match.
I forgot about Thingy being knocked out as well. So
because I mean, it's the perfect storyline where it's because of his strong placement, top 8 at Seoul, that he is able to close it out and come just ahead of Zim, who came second in Masters Tour Seoul. But of course, he first has to win the game to get there, which at the moment is still looking very slim. His chances are, that is.
It's a very Yoda-esque statement.
Win he must.
We go for the Sylvanas in the first part of the card. The steal is the good one.
Our tombs.
I'm so
Activating Dr. Boom Mad Genius as well means that the Snip Snap can get both trades done itself by going in and the 1-1 trading in as well, which allows the N'Zoth to hit face.
Yeah, just an incredibly long and dense turn here. But all things considered, yep, I can agree with what's going on.
Gonna go for the rebuy on the N'Zoth, and not gonna save it for Elysiana. And I agree with this because I think Eddie does never really need to double Elysiana this game.
Yeah,
I think the game's gonna be solved one way or the other before that happens.
Right, you know, you have to consider at first, maybe my opponent can, I don't know, Hecklebot out one of my key minions and I need both activations. But yeah, it's very clear this is just the play, I think. Or, sorry, it's not very clear, but I think this is the correct play. A good spot by Eddie.
I think DeadDraw has to consider as well is he's got 5 cards left. He's start playing stuff.
It's true. But again, it's that problem where he's thinking, if I want to go for Mecha'thun win condition, he has to keep a full hand.
Or
because otherwise
he has to
Hakar can
debate
just
it
come
out.
down. That's also true, yeah.
Because Hakar needs to come down and it die.
Yes.
Which is a 2-turn setup, basically.
Yes. Unless the leftmost card in Eddie's hand is specifically Hakar. Which DeadDraw, I think, has no read on.
Yeah, it's so hard to read these slow matchups, isn't it? Because it could be anything right now.
But first of all, he has to have remembered, without deck tracker, mind you, exactly how many cards were in hand when the Emperor reduced it. And of course, if he has any reads on what that card are, whether it was kept in the mulligan or anything like that.
Yeah, and I think we as casters are often overly generous with saying how much players should know when deck tracker's not involved, obviously. Yeah. Because when it's not, it is incredibly difficult. I think we give players a lot of credit, and they are due a lot of credit for being very good, of course.
Yeah.
But I think keeping track, especially in a game like this, is, I want to say, nigh on impossible.
To do it perfectly, there are...
Yeah.
I mean, you could count on your fingers how many people there are in the world that could do it perfectly.
And by keep track, I mean keep track whilst using that to gain reads that are relevant, right?
And just playing the game at the same time.
And also doing that thing called trying to win the game of Hearthstone. I think it's incredibly difficult.
Oh, I love that fuse thing.
I'd be incredibly interested to hear what the rumblings are amongst the pro players watching this, because some of those players that, you know, like Purple, Frozen in particular, are great at thinking what's, like from turn 1 they can say, this is what he's got to move towards, this is his win condition. And although I think we've come up with a few different ways he could hope to win it, whether or not he's executing it to the best of his ability is an entirely different question.
And also the transition as well for this, because it's not like I fully respect players such as Purple and Frozen who can go into even weird matchups and go, yep, this is how you win.
Yep.
Turn 1, this is the plan. But DeadDraw discovered a Mecha'thun, which is not a turn 1 plan. It's, oh, I discovered Mecha'thun. Wait, what happens now? Does this change?
Oh, I guarantee you the only thing that Eddie's considering here is Mecha'thun. I think he's realized that pretty much every threat has been exhausted from DeadDraw. He's got one discovered mech in hand. Worst case outside of Mecha'thun, sorry, ignoring the Mecha'thun, like Bulldozer is the best mech it could be. Eddie's realizing the only thing he loses to is Mecha'thun. How does he shut it out?
I'd even say as well that Harrison might have just given him a bit of a nod. Why would you Harrison to get to fatigue quicker against an Elysiana deck, right?
Yeah. Like, if you're never winning in fatigue anyway, that incentivizes you to draw cards, but you don't just want to kill yourself with fatigue.
Yeah,
still. You
and
want to
burn
have
a
the
card.
time. Yeah,
Yeah,
you want to have the time to use your tempo to win the game. DeadDraw, considering just overdrawing his final card, you know, full honesty here, I do not know what that remaining card left in his deck is. Could it be a Brawl?
I think it's a Brawl.
Yeah, I'm thinking Brawl as well, actually. But
he's brawled once this game, I think.
Yes, I think so. But either way, I think it's not... honestly, it's a card he would rather not have to play to go for a Mecha'thun win condition. He'd rather just get rid of it.
But my worry now is that they cancelled each other out. Because if you say, oh, you can't let Eddie play Hakar unless you have 10 cards.
Right.
Eddie isn't going to play Hakar if you have 10 cards.
That's it. So Eddie just doesn't play Hakar.
Yeah,
and he just wins.
Eddie wins.
Yes.
It's
It gets
never
really
ends,
weird.
does it?
Really weird.
It's a brawl. High five to us.
Which is honestly a great burn for DeadDraw. You would rather, I think, in this situation, just delete it from your deck than have to spend the mana.
I bet you wish you could have chucked in the 2 plagues in the fire as well and just said, you know what, get rid.
Oh. Okay, so he's realized now he cannot draw any more cards. He cannot generate any more cards in hand. There is no way to get up to 10 cards in hand because the only unknown entity in DeadDraw's hand is the Mecha'thun.
Right.
So if it was anything that could add cards to his hand, he wouldn't have Mecha'thun. And so I think Eddie knows this is a 100% lock.
99%. If he gets like discover mech, and fills his hand from boom.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking very extremes,
yeah.
but I like being extreme sometimes. There you go. Play can be played when there's nothing to plague. Question answered. But yeah, I guess that's it, right?
He's just hoping that it can't die. Like if.
Yeah. Now obviously with 7, you know, the more cards he plays out, the obviously worse this gets.
I think this was a beautiful last play by Eddie. We were saying as long as he doesn't play it, he just wins the game. But now he realized a spot where it is a 100% chance that DeadDraw has to start drawing these bloods, and a 0% chance for him to be able to overdraw the necessary amount to win with Mechathune. Eddie has won the game.
That's it. I'm out of cards.
I think DeadDraw gave it a very, very strong effort, realizing that his victory condition was getting up to 10 cards. And maybe Eddie messes up. But honestly, I think if you had to choose any player in the world to mess up here, Eddie would be like the last one.
Right.
He knows these crazy long fatigue control matchups better than anyone else in the world. It's like him and Yala that I would put on that level. And maybe, as I said, Frozen and Purple as well from the Americas region, who have any chance of standing up to Eddie. So while DeadDraw gave it the best shot he could, there was just nothing doing that.
Yeah, and I think as well that you could even see from Eddie there throughout the course of the game, especially if you were keeping an eye on his camera, every time something happened, it was just like,
yep.
And even right at the end there, it was just like, right, as you said, what's the one thing I could randomly lose to here? And also the Harrison and the draws kind of gave that away. It's like, right, okay, now he's in this position to do this. He hasn't got 10 cards. Hakar, go, game. And even though it was long and quite grueling for these players, Eddie had a handle on that, arguably from just turn 1.
Yes, he did. He 100% did. There was a couple of turns there after DeadDraw played the Snip Snap. I think that was on turn 9, where Eddie just kind of left them about there for a while. He didn't really try and clear them off and took a fair bit of damage there. But honestly, even then, like, I think he just knew exactly what he was doing. I think he realized even if he's taking 6 damage a turn, he really just doesn't come close to killing him off. And if anything, it kind of just board-locked DeadDraw from being able to go even further on board.
Yeah, it's super awkward overall, and I believe the players are just about heading into the next game, which is going to be the Warrior versus Priest. Which means that we're not going to get the Warrior versus Shaman quite yet. They're making it go the distance.
Yeah,
Derek.
Eddie's putting us through the ringer on this one.
I'm having words after this.
He saw us when he walked in on the casting desk. We were having a little bit too much fun. He was like, we'll break their spirits.
He just looked at us, smiled, and then walked away. He knew he was going to get us.
You have displeased the Eddie.
And now I shall displease you. Here we go, though, getting into it. Game number 4. Again, if DeadDraw wins, he does go through to the finals and qualifies to be a Grand Master. If Eddie wins, on the other hand, we are going to game number 5.
Would you like to do the Aliciana roll call?
Go on.
One player has, and one player has not.
I already know who and who, unfortunately.
One player has... oh, no, wait, sorry. Eddie is not playing Seance, so he does not have quite... He only has 1 activation of Aliciana in this matchup, whereas, of course, he had the double activation in the previous series. But honestly, I'm thinking with Hakar thrown in there as well, and the Aliciana, we're looking at another incredibly one-sided game here.
And again, honestly, I did not really think about this going into this tournament, but I didn't think I would be sat casting as much Hakar as I've cast this weekend. I've never cast this much Hakar before.
Yeah.
It's insane, and there you go, good timing. Guys, you said something. And I honestly just didn't see it coming. I expected, at least personally, a bit more of an aggro meta.
Yeah, same.
And obviously Hakar,
well, that's what we had.
Yeah, but Hakar being one of the worst cards you can play in an aggro meta, but it really is going for that extra slight level of strategy where it's saying, well, if everyone's expecting aggro, they play control, and then this beats control.
And to be fair to Eddie, his decks are not bad against aggro whatsoever. They're control decks. They are very greedy control decks, which cut some of the some of the early removal options. Like he's of course not playing weapons projects, so weaker against rogue, a little bit weaker against the paladins and hunters as well. But it just means he has so dominant of a matchup against anyone who's bringing control. It's almost impossible to go greedier than Eddie's done. As we can see from DeadDraw, he just has regular old control warrior or N'Zoth control warrior here, which does not come close to fatiguing the priest. So again, correctly, DeadDraw is drawing.
And again, this time I wonder what DeadDraw's plan is again for this matchup. Just because it's also, I feel like this Priest is such an awkward deck to play against.
Yeah.
It's very predictable, and it's, by predictable, I mean predictably annoying, right? You know there are just taunt minions going to be in the way.
Yeah.
You know there's going to be a lot of heal, you know there's a lot of resurrects, and I would say there aren't many decks, there are decks that either try and out-control it or combo it, or get it before it gets to turn 5, 6, 7. And if you can't do either of those, you just lose the game. I think it's very sort of cut and dry as far as I'm concerned.
I agree completely.
I feel like Hunter, we saw, or at least I cast Hunter versus Priest earlier on, and it very much was like, oh, Hunter's looking okay, looking okay. Oh, no, Priest is stabilized, they lose. Because they can never deal enough damage because of the healing from counter.
Yeah. Eddie's played this deck very interestingly as well. When I was casting his game earlier on in the day, when he was up against Brox, I believe, in the quarterfinals match, and he was up against the Quest Charmer, and he was playing this deck super aggressively. Right. Even though he had all the late game fatigue cards, as we see here, like Hakar and Elysiana, he was just throwing out mass resurrections, throwing out N'Zoth, allowing his board to be traded into, and he did win the game, but it was pretty close. And actually, also Brox might have missed lethal in that exact matchup.
That always helps.
Yeah, that does help. But, I mean, to be fair, I missed it as well. It was a tough lethal to spot. Not that it would have to be tough for me to miss it. I've missed some easy lethals in my time, let me tell you.
I missed an easy lethal today.
Yes, you did.
Thanks. We'll say, it's okay, Raven. Don't feel bad.
That would be a lie.
It's not okay. Feel bad. Jeez.
Exactly.
Savagery.
What do you know? Eddie's ahead on board. And he, of course, has the late game scenario. It's really just like threats that he's lacking at the moment. But honestly, I think for the most part, he doesn't even really want to develop onto the board. He just wants to keep it at an equilibrium because the longer it goes on...
Just not lose, right?
Yeah, yeah. If it stays at a kind of tepid, lukewarm game state, he will win.
Yep, he's just chipping away here. And keeping everything fairly steady, fairly even floating 6 man. You see what kind of matchup this is when it is going to be going this slowly. And again, I do just wonder, does DeadDraw just need to get to boom quickly and try and make mechs happen? And not necessarily the Mechathune thing we just, dealt with last game, but just threats that you can keep throwing out that maybe take down some of these taunt minions? I don't know. It's kind of tough.
We should probably just say now at this point in the cast that no suggestion is a bad suggestion at this point. We need to get to the weird lethal opportunities for DeadDraw to have a chance. Just throw them out there.
Okay. Don't play boom because he expects you to do it. Does that work?
All right, let's go down that line of thinking. You don't play boom. You never get bored. You never kill them. You die. It's a good start.
It's a good first try, at least. Keep them coming, though.
A for effort here, guys. Right. Any non-stupid suggestions, anyone?
Nope. I didn't hear any.
Yeah.
Looked around
Mike,
the room.
anything?
I think it's Miguel, actually. This card Tuck Defender's got a lot to answer for, hasn't it, at the moment? When it first was released, I was like, oh, pretty cool card, I like it. It's got some use in some of the slightly slower decks.
It's a cool card.
Now it's like, I've had enough. Go home.
I know. Like, trying to get through Tuck Defenders, like, it feels like trying to walk through custard. Like, it's just
I
so
don't even like
slow
custard.
and
I couldn't even
sludgy.
eat my way through it.
Really? Quite like custard. Did you ever watch Danger Mouse?
I've seen it. I can't recall it that well.
Right.
Yes.
Well, there's like an episode where one of the villains like covers the world in custard, and I was thinking, oh, brilliant. Sign me up.
I want to be a villain.
Yeah, exactly. If that's the end of the world, then sign me up.
I don't know what it is about custard. I think it's
Doesn't
just
tick
like
your boxes.
a weird consistency plus heat. Doesn't really do it for me. You know what I mean, though, right? It's a very unique thing. Is my point, I guess.
Yes. As I always say, there's nothing like custard.
I would say there's nothing like snip snaps, but I can see 3 things that are quite like snip snaps there on the board, so that's just not true.
They are snip snaps.
So they're pretty similar then, yeah.
You just lost about 3 brain cells in that conversation.
Oh, only 3? Okay, I need to try harder.
Well, snip snaps are one of the stickiest and most annoying minions the DeadDraw can throw onto the board, so it does mean that to an extent Eddie has to find defensive maneuvers of some kind.
Yeah, I think very quickly he's going to end up just clearing the board with Mass Hysteria once these guys have gone off and tried to obviously kill the other 2 snip snaps. Mass Hysteria, even on a board of 1/1s, might not look mind-blowing at all, but most importantly, like you said, it's the thing to just get rid of all these minions. And these are the tricky ones. Priest does a good job, you know, look at the Priest Plague, right? Wipe a whole board almost no matter what. Whereas you don't want to use that on 1/1s. Whereas the Mass Hysteria, it can be pretty wonky sometimes, so
That's right.
it's probably going to set up for it soon.
Okay, good outcome there for DeadDraw. He's able to clear a bit of room out of his hand, go for the Omega Assembly. That's a draw. That's a draw. That is a card right there.
The old Heckler bot.
Monsieur Heckle Bot. Does mean, if he can hit Elysiana there, I'm going full guinea pig mode here. There's got to be something. Oh, he's doing it.
I like it. He's doing it. Here we go. And his deep breath.
Oh.
And it's like, cheers, mate.
Thanks, fella. Yeah, that is... I mean, it's not great for Eddie. He's like a card bearer in fatigue. He lost a decent card in the matchup, but yeah, it's... to be honest, anything that isn't Elysiana, and Eddie carries on with his standard game plan, which is, I'm winning.
Yep. Oh, see, DeadDraw's raising his hand. Just have to shout Miguel. Over there.
There we go. Admin's on it.
Yep, admin's going to head over just to double check what's going on, just to make sure everything's cool. It's like, I need more bottles of water. Yeah,
I think that might literally be it.
Yeah, no, it actually is, yeah. So we're all good with the game. The call was literally just for some refreshment, which is, you know, basically we've been here for the best part of 24 hours so far in this series, so you do need a refill of the old drink.
It's true, and DeadDraw is feeling a little under the weather at the moment, which is never a good excuse for games not going your way, but it's an extra hindrance you have to work your way through.
You did annoy me a little bit. During last series, DeadDraw, oh no, was it the series before? Might be his early series. He came into the caster room, said, oh, can I just come in and just watch and just sort of chill before my match? It's like, yeah, of course.
How dare you?
10 minutes in.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not feeling well today, by the way. Cheers. Great. Just sat in the same room as everyone. If there's no finals, because we're all ill randomly, you know why? Just put it out there.
Put him on blast, all right?
Yeah.
DeadDraw ever asked to sit next to you? Firm no.
Well, at least just check.
Get out of the thermometer.
How you feeling? Yeah, pretty nervous. No, not like that. I don't care about emotions. How are you feeling?
Are you sick?
Yeah.
Say ah.
And it's like, my plays are. Whoa!
And I'd be like, all right, that's pretty cool. You can sit with us.
I'll get sick for that.
I'll have what he's having.
Tickly cough. That's what. DeadDraw is putting forward some pressure, but again, just staring at what Eddie has access to. It's just...
Like, at any point,
doesn't matter, yeah.
Plague of Death just comes down. He, of course, wants to keep a Plague for the eventual N'Zoth turn. Okay, it's honestly pretty good.
Just another card, so why not? Not got enough of those.
And in case a reminder was needed, there's Elysiana as a baby.
Although it does give... I mean, I know the Hecklebot's been played, but it does let DeadDraw know that all these cards are in the deck.
Oh, that's a good point.
So
that's
he knows Elysiana's not in hand.
Okay, he has information.
And he knows that her card is, right?
Yes, he has
would have failed the
100%
boss. He
knowledge.
knows it's Hakar and Ziliax.
That's a great point.
Thanks.
So, what can he do with that information?
Probably still lose, to be honest. But it's something.
I know so much, and I'm dead.
Tombs.
I have gained all knowledge. Bye. It does mean that if he discovers another hacker bot or something, that he knows that the option's there and he knows that Elysiana is not in hand ready to go. But still worryingly, he knows that this is still a bad game. And he still has a lot of work to do if he wants to take it. Leaving the Elysiana up, there's no massive punish. He knows there's no Seance, as you mentioned earlier, in Eddie's deck.
I'm just going to double check that, just to be sure. I'm pretty sure that it wasn't. Yeah, no Seance there. It's greedy, but not the greediest we've seen. And I think, honestly, it's wise for Eddie to not go for the Seance. Just because you don't need to be as greedy as possible, you just need to be greedier than your opponents.
Right.
And most people are going for either Elysiana or Seance, because obviously in the mirror, if your opponent plays Elysiana, you can then Seance the Elysiana into your hand, and you end up in a similar state.
And that's the real trick with these greedy decks, and just deck build in general. Yes, you could build an extremely greedy deck that beats every single control matchup. What if you face aggro? You're dead. So walking that line is very, very important when approaching, especially tournaments this wide, when you can be facing up to, a selection of out of a few hundred players is insane.
And I think that's why, in my opinion, Elysiana is a bit of a problem card, because traditionally, if you wanted to make yourself better against control, you had to put in more and more legendaries for value. It's why Wallet Warrior was a tech back in the day.
Good old Ysera. Yeah,
exactly. You had Ysera, Grom, just whatever big threats you could throw in there. But nowadays, it's one-card techs beat certain matchups 100% of the time, which is exactly what we're saying here. Eddie has Elysiana in his deck, DeadDraw does not. So DeadDraw, 99 games out of 100, just loses.
So on the flip side then, do you think DeadDraw just should be playing Elysiana? Do you think it's just incorrect of him to not play it?
No, it's never strictly incorrect, of course. Like, an extra card slot, a completely dead card in your mulligan against aggro, where the game only goes for 6 turns or something, can be the difference between winning and losing. It's a huge difference in your lineup if you compared it to, I don't know, an execute or an extra piece of early removal. It undeniably would have helped him in the top 8, though.
Right.
But yeah, you've got to consider then, even if DeadDraw had gone for Elysiana in his Warrior, he would still have lost to Eddie's Warrior because he had Elysiana and Panda. Like, how far do you go down the rabbit hole?
Even though the board looks pretty full here for DeadDraw so far, he is not actually under any, or Eddie is not actually under any real threat. That's a very quick animation, wasn't it?
I was going to say, I'm born.
Straight out of the grave.
Bang.
Slap. Oh, jeez. We amuse ourselves in too many bad ways. We're just a breaking Derek.
Just a funny life reborn.
It's like in zombie films when there's always this scene where for some reason someone's chilling at a graveyard and they all come crawling out. But imagine the hand comes out and someone just stamps on it back
just
down.
Smacks it out. No,
get back in.
Not today. But it's also a demolishing robot that throws a barrel at them.
Just there, pull.
No tomb can hurt me.
Oh Lord. Usually took us a bit longer to reach this point in APAC at least.
Hey, look, I cast match 1 of the day.
That's true.
I was there many hours ago.
You've been here a while. I had to ride here in a car with Sweaty Lorinda though, so I think we're about even.
He's probably asleep by now anyway, wouldn't he, if he ever heard that? I did walk into the cast room early. Lorin just lay on the floor, carpeted, very comfortable by the way.
Yes, lovely
but
room.
Face first. I think he's just taking a nap.
Precision. Perfection.
Oh, God bless that man.
And if you are interested, I am trying to break Derek. He's actually done for the day. So I've got to get in while I can.
True, I'm off after this. But back in Hearthstone world, DeadDraw is still just in that same spot. He's not getting close to delivering lethal. Was this a mistake here? Oh, damaging his... Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
Sorry.
He sort of strolled in a little bit too casually to that Plague of Wrath there. And it's not like it's a weird card for him to play around right now. There are 7 cards left in DeadDraw's deck. He had 5 in hand. Like, it's pretty likely there's a Plague.
Right.
And
Very
the game
safe.
can start. Here comes Sakar.
Pretty safe Hakar now for Eddie. The only thing that can go wrong now, and to be fair, this does give a chance to DeadDraw, as slim as it may be, is he could just go off the top, you know, blood into blood into blood into blood into blood, and Elysiana is his last card.
Bomb card.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at now. Oh, of course, he can kill it off straight away. That's quite a cool interaction. Ooh.
Well.
Okay. We might actually have a game on our hands.
Elysiana. And DeadDraw can come close to just passing every turn.
Right.
Because the game's kind of one way or the other now.
It's all he can do.
Yeah. And, oh, still not Elysiana.
I mean, Eddie's got to leave it in the hands of the gods now.
Still no blood for DeadDraw either. Boom, though.
It's a good find.
That's
Very
actually
good find.
pretty sick.
Yep.
Especially on empty board. Doesn't have to place into a mass res.
Gaining armor, shooting face. There's a lot of pretty good hero powers.
Priest can't go past 30. Bizarre.
Ooh. Just potentially reses another Hakar there, which is absolutely not what Eddie wants here. We've also got to bear in mind, though, DeadDraw will also start drawing his own bloods eventually, which means there's a clock on both of these players.
Double the health.
Yeah. He also has half the deck size.
Who wins? You decide.
Yeah.
Well, no, you can't decide. Actually, the players decide. Maybe even the game decides. We go for the mass res here. Healing doesn't do anything. Hey, just put him some threats. There's the first blood for DeadDraw. So both players on 2 and 2.
He really needed that to be at the bottom of his deck. He can, of course, just keep amassing cards here until he overdraws. Yeah. But the problem is, now he's starting to be beaten up by this big board. But I think he's realizing he has to keep all these cards in his hand, right?
It has to go his way, basically.
Yeah.
It literally needs to be blood into blood into blood into blood for Eddie in the next 2 turns. Right?
Yes.
So Eddie can... So just so you know, if you don't know at home, if you draw a blood, the shuffle happens after the turn is over.
Yes.
After that mechanic is over. But if you have 2 bloods, you can draw the 2 that were already in the deck, which then shuffle 4 in. And then the next turn, you can draw 4 bloods before it actually ends, because they're natural bloods in the deck. And oh, dodged it again.
Honestly, it really just feels like for Eddie, he put himself in a situation where even though it was incredibly slim that this goes DeadDraw's way, it could have done.
He just didn't have Elysiana.
Yes. We're even seeing here DeadDraw holding on to the Plague of Wrath, which, as we can see, was absurdly strong here because he has to start overdrawing those bloods. There are 2 in his deck now. He's got to get rid of both of them.
There's 1. There's 2.
He's now looking at 4 in his deck he's got to get rid of. He has a full hand now.
Yeah, that's going to be it, though. He takes 2. He can't deny the bloods and beat back the damage from the minions. And Eddie, the sigh of relief there, because I think for him, he hit the point that you talked about. He had his plan. He executed it, but he did not have the Elysiana or even the N'Zoth in his hand to say N'Zoth can out-heal some of this blood.
Yeah.
So then he actually was in a rough spot overall there, and it could have gone wrong. It didn't, but just imagine that DeadDraw's last couple of turns there were Eddie's draws, and then it does go blood into blood into blood, and then everything goes into a bit of a problem there.
And I think it's very, very possible, it's been known to happen before, that we're just miscalculating the maths there, and Eddie would have realized it's just not even worth considering the chance that it goes wrong. Like, we're looking at percentages of percentages where it has to be the exact blood before Elysiana and the exact cards for DeadDraw. So I think really he knew probably what he was doing there, but it did just feel like it was maybe not the 100% highest win percentage line there.
Right, and that is going to be it for game number 4. We've got one more game which is going to decide this series. Before we are going to get into it, there we go, we are going to go to a quick break while we can just give the players a couple of minutes. This has been a long one, so we'll have a bit of a rest before game number 5, but we'll be right back after this break. We are back and getting ready to get into game number 5 between these two players, DeadDraw and Eddie, and it has been quite the slog to get to this point. Both players bring in some pretty slow lineups, but so far it's been Eddie's Hakar inclusions that have really closed out these games and made them almost impossible for DeadDraw to take some wins. But we finally step towards the last matchup, which is not going to include that.
That's right, the biggest match of DeadDraw's entire career, the biggest game of his entire career. He is one Hearthstone game away from qualifying through to Grandmasters, as again, all he needs in this tournament is second place, and of course for no European to finish higher than him. And with Kin waiting for him in the finals should he win, this is the match. If he can get through, he is our next European Grandmaster. Yeah, and it's all coming down to this. During that break, you know, DeadDraw stepped away for just a second. I think maybe just go to the bathroom, but even just stepping away is a nice refresher, isn't it? You know, I think it could really help. Just shake everything off and be like, right, okay, whew. DeadDraw went 2-0 up with some really cool games. Eddie then solidified the matchup into a 2-2 due to his Hakar and his anti-control control lists. But as I mentioned, it is now this Control Warrior from DeadDraw up against Eddie's Shaman, which is a much, much, much more winnable matchup for DeadDraw. Absolutely. It is still unfavorable, I would say, but given that the last two were I don't even know what number you put on it.
Unfavorable
Like,
*2.
right, 80% for Eddie to win, probably 90, to be perfectly honest, in each of those individual games, just due to how unlikely DeadDraw was to deliver lethal or win in fatigue. But now we're getting into the game, unfortunately, a few turns into it.
Okay.
But this is the game for DeadDraw to win to get into Grandmasters.
Very eager to decide who goes into the finals, as well as not only Grandmasters a lot on the line, and maybe kind of interesting that DeadDraw has to beat a Grandmaster to get into Grandmasters here, which is pretty cool, like a gatekeeper style role here for Eddie. But Eddie, on the other hand, we talk a lot about DeadDraw because, yes, it's a huge deal for him. But Eddie, yes, he doesn't need this in the same way DeadDraw does, but he does want to assert even further dominance as a Grandmaster. Like, why wouldn't you want to show that, yeah, I don't only just have it in the Grandmaster League format, I have it in completely open formats where there are hundreds of players.
And I think while Eddie is definitely trying to prove that, and pretty much already has by getting through to the semi-finals here, DeadDraw is trying to prove that he's got it in the Grandmasters system. He's already shown his stuff in Masters Tour with his performance at Seoul, and now here even better in Bucharest.
And as we said, stepping into this game, a couple of turns in, but nothing too crazy appears to have happened so far. But now there is Mogu, and there is a mutant.
That's what I'm looking at.
And apparently there's Noctisari every single time. We'll see. Close.
Yeah. Probably rather have an Noctisari here, to be perfectly honest.
I was going to say, is it ever coin evolve there?
I don't think so.
Ever? Is 5/5 enough?
Yes, I think so. Given how good Evolve can be later on, like you'll have another Mogu, of course, and the already infamous Desert Hares. There's a good chance it survives as well, and then you can just evolve it next
I think
turn.
the important thing for me is because of the Explorer, it means it is not dead to Dynomatic, which is a pretty big deal. If it was just a 5/5 on the board, I think I would have evolved, honestly, whether rightly or wrongly, just because I don't want like the Mogu trade Mutate to be dead to just a Dynomatic on curve. Eddie looks like he picked up the Farsight from that Ethereal Lackey we saw on the board when we got into the game. So that is going to help him here. I don't think a lot of the time fatigue comes into massive amounts of play here.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time Eddie wants to put him in a position where fatigue isn't a thing, and he just wants to beat him out by putting waves upon waves upon waves of minions to break against DeadDraw.
And therefore he needs to carefully consider how to sequence out those waves of minions, because one of the cards we're looking at in hand, well, one of the cards for each player's Mind Control Tech versus N'Zoth is a very important interaction that you're looking at in this game, where obviously once N'Zoth comes down, it's supposed to be the final unbeatable wall of taunts that just wins the game for the warrior. But if Eddie is able to hold on to the Mind Control Tech for long enough to go Hero Power Mind Control Tech, maybe even that ultimate win condition for DeadDraw won't be enough.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because there's also nothing else that Warrior really does that would warrant playing a Mind Control Tech, right? They don't often go that wide outside of maybe Snip Snap sometimes. But yeah, like I think Mind Control Tech can be freely held onto without much in the form of punish opportunity here
for
Eddie.
Big draw, though, for DeadDraw on the other side in El Dr. Boom.
It's like Senior El Boomo.
Yes.
Counter defender coming down, just going to keep things simple. Doesn't gain anything in the form of heal, but can pretty much soak this whole board if he wants.
Yeah. And it sets up for very potentially an early N'Zoth. You know, DeadDraw does not have to utilize it for the ultimate late game that it can be. It could just be Boom on 9, N'Zoth on 10.
Right.
And then hope to win the game from there.
I wonder.
Use a Sandstorm Elemental not only to just help clear this up and hold a minion, but also just have a battle cry to proc the quest that you really don't care about in the matchup, right? Elemental, if you could always use that to proc the quest, you would be very, very happy indeed.
And getting the 3 damage to face, it's not much at the moment, but boy does this stack up quickly.
No good way for this board to be cleaned up right now. There is Whirlwind Plague. A little bit overkill, I think.
Yeah.
And also doesn't technically clear the board because there'll be one little Murloc left afterwards.
What now?
I think, honestly, we're probably looking at just a shield block instead. But the problem is, having said that, if, as DeadDraw here, you just go for the shield block up here and don't clear the board, Eddie can develop nothing, attack face with everything, and be in a very good spot.
I think I like Weapons Project here because it's not about damage and health, it's about you being able to kill minions.
True.
And the Weapons Project does a very good job versus most of this board. And why not, most importantly? Otherwise, it's just armor up past. And again, like you said, this is enough damage. And then what's the plan next turn? Is the plan draw a good card next turn, right? Because that's a very wishy-washy plan as far as I'm concerned.
It's a tough old spot, man. Because again, he needs to have a contingency plan for Mogu plus Evolve, for Hair Evolve. If he's just throwing away Plague of Wraths here, he's probably losing to a whole bunch of draws from Eddie, like that one. I think it's probably not the turn for it quite yet for Eddie. Yeah.
I think the fact that he has Hero Power Sludge Slurper face is just more than good enough right now.
What are you thinking of bouncing? Oh, sorry. I get. Sorry, Bog Slush and Sludge Slurper.
Sorry. It's me mumbling probably.
No.
But I think this might just be fine. Because what I do like as well is the Hair Bog Slusher Evolve turn. Oh, he's going to battle. Okay.
This is fine. I think it gives you a good chance of generating, you know, more of the good lackeys.
I spent too much time watching Purple make 100 hair hand with Barista.
That was sick.
Again, now what? 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 power on board? And Eddie's not really done anything to get this? I'm not saying that in a negative way, but I mean, he's not committed any big turns or big plays here.
Yeah.
He just has stuff. And again, look, Weapons Project draw. So DeadDraw's plan to draw a good card didn't work. And in the meantime, he could have just not armored up and now had 2 less minions on the board right now.
I definitely think he's got to be looking at it very carefully on this turn, especially as Ziliax is like good to clear off the board here, but I don't know, even then, you know, you're only getting half the health off of it, and keeping your health total nice and high is a big consideration in this matchup.
Honestly, and is this Weapons Project being saved for any particular reason? Because there's now 2 in hand.
Yeah.
And of course, I know it gives Eddie a weapon that he can swing with, but one player plays tons of little minions and the other player does not. So I feel like that just favors the player who wants to start chipping away these minions. And I just don't know why he's keeping hold of both.
Yeah,
I think doing some I'm missing.
I think on this turn, it's mainly just getting the hero powers in that he's considering, which you could definitely argue is incorrect if you're afraid of the amount of pressure that Eddie's putting on. But I think if your opponent is putting forward small boards that deal incremental damage, the way you pull away from that is by hero powering every turn, getting that incremental advantage yourself. Because as soon as they go all in, then you can just let rip with the power cards. You know, anything that clears the board.
Speaking of power cards. And there's what? Kobold Lackey, there's Hairs there. There's Mind Control Text there.
If he can get himself a Wasp or a Life Drinker, I mean, that's like the best card he could possibly reduce, apart from maybe Shudderwalk for a double battle cry. It's probably even better than that.
I'd argue it's better.
Yeah.
I think, again, we talked about this in GM, right? Where I think, like, actually Barista is just the best card in the deck because it just wins games when it's played.
I definitely hear out that argument. Now we're looking at a very scary looking 6/9 Murloc on the board. And even then, DeadDraw is just tanking the hits again. And this is the Shaman's real advantage in this matchup, is if you're constantly having a lot of cards in hand, threatening the potential for more damage afterwards, and bigger development afterwards as well, you get to keep chipping face here turn after turn. And honestly, when you get to do this every turn, you win.
Yeah, I mean, Eddie's biggest problem right now is he can't hold all his cards.
Yeah.
So that's what DeadDraw planning is like, he'll never be able to play anything again. He even commits one Mind Control Tech because he knows he has the other one.
From nothing, power.
Literally didn't even get to see the option there before it was picked. But sure. Mutate over the Haunting Visions is not necessarily an obvious pick because Visions can get you, you know, Bloodlust, Lava Burst, Lightning Bolt, pretty much any damage spell you could think of. Even a Wind Fury here would be very, very powerful. Of course, can't play it this turn. But Mutate is in the deck. It's a strong card. Now, though, I think we're looking at a firm response needed from DeadDraw.
He has to do something. Is this just... Does he just have to Wrath?
If he goes Hero Power... If he goes just Hero Power and then... there's no other way to clear up the 6/9, does he? What about just N'Zoth? That gets a couple of 1/1s, a couple of cards with defenders, sorry.
I think he just has to pull the trigger on this playing a Wrath.
Agreed.
The more you don't play it, the more you just die to not playing it.
Yeah. Got to come down at some point to clear things up. But for Eddie, honestly, this board being cleared is almost a good thing because it allows him to start duplicating this Kobold Lackey, which is like Lackey and Barista is his win condition in just 2 cards.
Shame he didn't have like a Bog Slasher or something to do it twice. That would have been insane.
Yeah. Oh man, this is just looking so good for Eddie from here. I guess he's thinking, do I throw in a card first to evolve it? Probably keep the Mind Control tech, yeah.
Okay, that's not bad.
That's insane! What?
Some of the best 4-drops in the game.
What? Like, Cult Master is arguably bad because you don't want to... yeah, get rid of that one then.
What Cult Master, Derek?
Yeah. Oh, okay. That one's bad. What a low roll.
Well, same again.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just has to, right?
Yeah, he can even discover another mech on the same turn. Because the thing is, if you throw down N'Zoth here, then you're just sacrificing it away. Yeah, value traded to Kingdom Come. Safeguard's another mech. Sorry, another Death Rattle for N'Zoth. So it seems pretty good to me. Kaboombot does have Rush, so it's like an instant removal spell.
They've always got loads of stuff, though, right? That's the problem, because it's not targeted, it's random.
I'm liking the Safeguard.
Good time for a master plan.
Wargate, just because we've not mentioned him yet.
Don't want to make him feel left out.
Oh, I love that fuse thing.
Oh.
Well, this starts to happen, doesn't it? I'm surprised he's even drawing.
Yeah, I'm
to me,
honest,
I just see lethal in his hand over the course of a few turns.
So do I. Does he have room in his hand? Like, if you get rid of the coin, he's adding, what, 4 cards to his hand?
He could...
He's thinking through, he's counting on his fingers.
Because he could also potentially play Faceless
You just do it.
You can play Faceless Manipulator after the fact if that stops him overdrawing.
Yeah.
Faceless Manipulator. Faceless Lackey, sorry.
Like, this is 10 damage now, and it's, what, like an extra 20 damage he's adding to his hand?
It's just double.
It's just lethal. And we can even play them all next turn as well.
Right.
I think there has to be more armor game than DeadDraw has in his deck this turn.
DeadDraw looks like he's come so close, but he's actually going to end up being so far, as this is just one of the best games as Shaman versus Warrior I've seen in a long time.
Yep.
I'm one of the first people to say I think Warrior can get it done.
Yep.
But honestly, if you're against players of this level that know exactly how to take these matchups, and I'll mention it again, there's 2 weapons project in DeadDraw's hand.
Yeah.
He might well have a plan I don't know about, and that's completely great if he does. But I just see like armor wasted and weapon swings wasted, most importantly. He took so many hits from the waves of minions early on. I don't think it needed to happen.
Ziliax is a good card for him to get here.
It's not enough though, is it?
There's only 12 damage in hand, so if he can go unpowered Steambot Ziliax, that's 5, that's not enough. Plus the weapons project, he can survive the turn.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, then.
Because he's played a spell this turn, so unpowered Steambot can attack. With the rush from Ziliax, of course. Oh, I suppose it's a mech anyway.
But what can he kill, though? Because one Wasp kills it, right? One Wasp kills Ziliax, and he pushes through with the rest of the board.
Yeah, yeah.
He would kill.
okay.
He would kill what, the Barista, and he gets to push 3, 4, 5. He gets to push 6 at a loss of 6.
Okay.
So it nets him
But
0.
he still survives the turn,
yeah,
then, right?
yeah.
And it's the only play that survives in the turn, so far as I can see.
So do it.
Oh, okay. I guess this maybe
Unity.
helps him survive anyway because he can clear more stuff off.
Oh, did he?
Well, he had to get the attack with Ziliax to survive the turn.
Okay, that helps. Okay, good job.
So 14 health. Can't bounce anything.
So you Wasp 1, because it will always save you more than if you trade.
You start with the cable that rat, though,
Yep.
right? Unless I'm
Yep.
missing lethal,
No,
which I
start
don't
with the
think
cable
I am.
rat, you might get a lucky. Well, you will get a lucky, you might get a combo lucky, I think is
Right.
more my point. Nope. So if he Wasps 1, he pushes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you can push 12, and he's on 14, so he's 2 off. Still does it.
Yes, yes. You still do it. I was counting DeadDraw completely out there.
Does he do this over 2 turns and just like evolve instead and do other stuff and then Wasp again next turn? Is that ever better?
Maybe.
Just because you can always Wasp from hand
Yeah,
if you have
yeah,
a million lackeys, whereas you could like evolve instead and maybe get a chunky minion that survives. It's always best to leave burst from hand in hand until you need it.
Good
So
point,
maybe
yeah.
it's just a small thing. I doubt it changes the impact of the game overall, but it's just, you know, he has evolved, he has loads of other cards. Why not just throw a couple down?
Yeah, I think I probably preferred that a tiny bit more. Just evolve the rat to get a nice big minion.
Because you know the rat's always dead to the hero power, right?
Yes.
Okay,
So
then.
Eddie does not have any burst in hand for the moment. So DeadDraw just putting up a taunt wall is enough to survive technically on this turn, which I guess comes in the form of safeguard hero power plus the assembly.
Honestly, I think DeadDraw has to close his eyes and say he hasn't got
This
Shudderwock,
would be a
Yeah.
good
he hasn't got
time
Life
for a
Drinker,
master plan.
playing his off.
Oh, really? I'm wondering if he should like try and greed it out with safeguard. Well, I guess it's good enough anyway. And this way it doesn't play into MCT. So, yeah.
2 cards, that's like a lot of healing actually.
No, it is. Eddie has so many draws for just lethal right now.
That's not one of them.
And he can dig through his deck
There's
to
2
find
more
them.
though, yeah.
I hope you like my invention.
Nope. And nope. The nerves in this game
Oh my
must
God.
be insane.
It's not lethal, right? If he just goes rush, no.
It can't.
It
He
can't
heals
be.
for
Yeah,
12,
yeah.
right?
It's just not there.
There's probably evolved lethals, but guess what? I ain't running through those.
And I think even if DeadDraw is able to survive 1, maybe 2 more turns, Eddie's
matter
just
of
only
time.
so far away from finding what he needs. Like, it has to be another Ziliax discovered for I think there to be any hope whatsoever.
Our tombs.
They have to be like Omega Assembly into Ziliax and Scrap Hound. You know, like that kind of
Yeah, yeah.
game to like so much health that
That's
it gives him some time.
kind of where we're at, I think. It's just what happens when a good barista goes off.
Oh,
The
it's
warrior just can't
nuts,
win,
yeah.
really. Yeah.
And it was maybe the best barista actually.
Kind of wants to go back, actually, to the Tyrion.
Okay, he's not going to overkill so he can get this hair and the board's fine.
That's true, yeah.
What a waste. Brawl, okay.
That's a good card.
And he's on 11. It's a fairly respectable health total.
Oh.
And he has his max rush.
DeadDraw never wins this, right?
I ain't not saying that, mate. He could.
That would be the comeback
The bottom
of the
cards
century.
have to be what Shudderwock as bottom card.
Yeah,
Life Drinker is second to bottom, I guess.
right. Well, I mean, obviously Shudderwock adds a huge amount of value, but it doesn't necessarily do more than 6 damage to face with the Life Drinkers, because everything else could just miss.
Yeah, but it could not.
I'm thinking of ways to DeadDraw
okay.
to win. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got to be very, very fortunate to have any chance whatsoever. Okay, that's good.
Cool.
Good start. Yep.
DeadDraw. Somehow still in with a chance.
2
Don't
maulers.
ask me how, but it's true.
I mean, hey, even just the
Yeah.
what is that? Rusty Recycler has lifesteal and rush. Very budget Ziliax.
These could be charged minions. 5 core coins. Not bad.
Yeah, a little bit less
Overall-
impressive than last time. But
Overall, high
fine.
stats for 4 drops, though.
Yeah, yeah.
Kobold Lackey. Kobold Lackey.
8 damage, 10 with the weapon just
He
from
has
hand.
no magnetize, but he can gain 6 armor with another weapons project.
But he's got to clear the board. Are there any mechs he can get here that clear the board for him?
Okay, then.
Like missile launcher, but that hurts himself as well. I think this might just finally be it.
Would it be like Safeguard, Shield Slam, Weapons Project? Sort of thing? Shield Slam the Tazdingo away?
Right.
Trade in, it gets the 2/3 active to attack as well.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's true.
then.
Yeah, maybe that's where we're at. Doesn't... I guess it allows you to kill off a 3/2 as well. Yeah, okay, that's probably where we're at. From Eddie, even in the fantastic spot he's in, you can see his just visceral reaction to, oh, second weapons project. That's not what I wanted to see. So you can take out the Totem Cruncher, hero or weapon into the 0/2 Totem.
Flashlings are so fragile.
He's 1 off if he steals the taunt, right?
Yes.
I hope you like my invention.
There's a shudder. There's a
There's a
wasp.
weaponized
Okay.
wasp.
That's it, right? Is that it?
He can wasp the
zap
2/6.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12. No, not quite. Oh.
Is
He
it
do-
one?
he does
Is it
he
one
does it,
damage
he does
off?
it. Yeah, he does it right.
Yeah, I think it's
You
one
just front
damage
load
off.
it and play Shudderwalk.
8,
Because there's
16,
still
18.
Faceless Lackey to play Shudderwalk with the turn after to activate Wasps if
Yes.
he needs to, or to try to.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. So.
Thank you.
It's the line. You get the damage to face. 1 damage off lethal. While not lethal is the next best thing and should be able to get the game closed out for Eddie.
And now I think it's going to be a tough one for DeadDraw. At last, it was a hard-fought game. But Shudderwalk, although, wait, there's been no Life Drinkers played.
I don't think there's been a life drinker.
So there
no.
is a world in which Shudderwalk doesn't get there.
I mean, and then you've got 4 cards left in deck, 2 of which are life drinkers.
For a mess.
And honestly, we may have just forgotten a life drinker that's come down.
I don't think one's been played.
Okay. I trust you. Well, easy peasy clear here, of course.
And of course, as the smaller the board, the more likely one of these 18 million kobolds does hit DeadDraw in the face.
Yeah.
And this is going to be it. It's all going to come down to this draw. If it's Life Drinker, it's game. It's not. If it's Shudderwalk, it's close to... Oh, he can Hero Power.
You can
Coin.
hero power Shudderwalk.
The Walk.
And honestly, that's probably what he's been saving the coin for a long, long time now.
I mean, he just does, right?
Draws him 2 cards, which is fine. Yeah. Actually, no, sorry, it draws him potentially 4 cards if he goes Hero Power Shudderwalk. So
Does
maybe
he care?
you don't.
I don't think he cares.
It can only go up to 30 activations anyway on Shudderwalk, though, right?
And also, he draws 2 Life Drinkers for next turn with Hero Power.
Yeah.
Who cares about fatigue if you're healing for 12 the turn after?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I like it. And this Shudderwalk is going to very quickly spell Doom, I would guess, for DeadDraw. There is
All his
small
cards are green.
chances, but cards. What? What happens? How? Lightning Bolt, that's pretty good.
I'm almost out of cards. I've got more left in me.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I thought the game was going to continue. I was like,
Yeah.
what is going on? Congratulations to Eddie as he books his spot in the finals of Masters Tour Bucharest, and you do see from both players exhaustion, relief, just being over, I think, overall. But that was a very, very, very close series, and even in that last game, Eddie had to put everything out there, even with a very, very strong barista, to get the job done. Crazy series. I'm exhausted casting it. Never mind the players just actually sitting there having to try and be focused while they're playing. It's insane.
And I think that was honestly one of the highest level series of Hearthstone we've seen the entire tournament here.
Right.
For DeadDraw in the first 2 games, he did such a fantastic job of giving himself the highest chance possible of getting those lethals and closed them out very easily. It was really just the 2 games his warrior had against the Elysiana warrior and Elysiana priest that just put him in an unwinnable situation.
Right.
Eddie just could not lose those games, and that's exactly why he put them in his lineup.
Yep, and as you can see there, we have our finals for Masters Tour Bucharest. It's going to be Kin 0531, also known as Kin, versus Eddie, who just took the win over DeadDraw there. And that is going to be your finals to decide who is going to be the Masters Tour Bucharest champion. I'm excited. I have the pleasure to be casting the finals as well very shortly with Sottle. But Derek, I think this is your last time on the mic for the event.
It is. I'm off.
Any parting words? Or was that it? I'm off.
Yes, I want to say, honestly, commiserations to DeadDraw. I do believe he is one of the best Hearthstone players we have in the world, in or out of Grandmasters at the moment, and this will not be the last we've seen from him. But for Kin and Eddie, I cannot wait to see the crazy level of Hearthstone that we've seen all tournament from them in this Grand Finals.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty crazy, but of course, not only was that series grueling, but it just finished, so we are going to let Eddie have just some time there before we trick him back in the seat to get ready for the finals. So we're going to go to a break. We're going to give the players some time. I believe there is going to be an interlude with some entertainment for you guys from our favorite casters, Falcone and Lorinda. So don't worry, there is going to be stuff happening. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this break.